everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of Studio Dialogues. I wish you all a very happy 2022 and hope we see more positive and happy things this year. I want to start this year with a conversation with a wonderfully positive and warm soul. Her name is Stella Canfield. Stella is a wonderful, accomplished watercolor artist who interestingly had an initial career in sports for 30 years. She was born in Bulgaria but escaped the communist regime to finally reach America where she now lives. She paints in an intuitive and dynamic way, expressing her feelings very spontaneously on paper. And, I can't wait to chat with her, so let's get into the conversation. Hello, Stella. How lovely to see you.
Thank you very much, Jika. Very nice to see you.
Really appreciate you taking time out to talk to me.
It is an honor. I appreciate you inviting me. Thank you.
Stella, no conversation is really complete without your life story. So, I'd love to start with our viewers getting to know you. And, we all know that people who know you know that you've had a very eventful life and a very exciting life. Yes. And it'll be lovely if you could just quickly tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, my life journey, it's pretty exciting and pretty long. I was born in Bulgaria, and since childhood I always did sports. I graduated University of Sports, and I thought that will be my future. That is what I wanted. That is what I love. I wanted to teach sport. And that is what I graduated, pedagogy, which is the science of teaching, but specialized in teaching sports. And I started working in Bulgaria, and when I was 30 years old, we decided that we would like to be free and our children to grow up in freedom. So we left illegally the country with two little children and went to Germany, where I had my diploma evaluated as one of the best universities, not one, but the best university in Europe, in Cologne, Germany, as master degree of teaching sports. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, at that time, this was 1980, to teach sports with accent, which I didn't have, of course, was absolutely unthinkable. And nevertheless, I spoke German. I graduated Goethe University. I spoke university, and I spoke German better grammatically than the Germans themselves. But I had an accent, and teaching German kids with accent, that was not going to happen. I was very unhappy, so I decided if I want to be free, I'm not going to live in this country. So I came to the United States, okay, where I tried to evaluate my diploma. Unfortunately, they said we don't know anything about Bulgaria and we cannot accept the evaluation from Germany. I thought my life ended. That was my dream. That is everything that I achieved. And at that moment, my husband and I moved to a place where there was an art center. Mm. And I just was at the right time, at the right place. I started volunteering there. And since I loved watercolor since I was a child, okay, I started learning and I couldn't stop. I learned from many, many years with many of the best watercolor artists in the United States. And my husband was incredibly supportive. So all through the teenage years of my 4 children, I painted, did exhibits, festivals, studied, continue studying until today, because I do believe we are eternal students. Mm-hmm. And that is how from sport I went to art. And everybody asked me, how was that conversion? I mean, very easily, because I do believe, just like in sport, in art, or in any other profession, or is the passion. is the discipline, is the work that you put in there. So artists work like anything else. And I worked many years very hard to be where I am.
Yes. Because, and
And
it's so easy to
doing.
interview, because here was my second question, that, being a sports person involves a lot of discipline, a lot of passion, motivation, because you have to, be so consistent. And I think I was going to ask you if that has helped you in your watercolor career, but clearly, like you said, discipline.
Absolutely, passion. Because you put, yes, is the passion in the desire to put the work, the motivation, the inspiration that you have. And when you really love something and you find something that you put your heart in it, then you bear the fruits.
That's lovely, yes. So a lot of, beginners give up very soon, actually. So I think that is a key thing, that one has to really spend a lot of time, a lot of effort, and work at something very, very consistently to get, where, for example, where you are. So tell me something, Stella. Did you come across watercolor immediately and, that's what you took to? Or did you also try different mediums and finally settled on watercolor because of its characteristics?
I started with watercolors because when I started working as volunteer at the art center, I met this beautiful older lady, and now I'm saying older. She probably at that time was younger than I am now, but I was 30-something years old, and for me, a 50 years old person seemed old at that time. She was this beautiful, beautiful person, and she invited me to come to her classes. And she was teaching watercolor. So I started with watercolor and studied many, many years. But I tried pastel, and I tried acrylics and oils, and I do paint sometimes. But my heart is in watercolor, and I do believe it fits my personality. So I'm not very patient person. I paint quickly, and for oil you need a lot of time. I'm not that patient.
Yeah, no, I agree, because that's how I started. I started with oils and acrylics, and but when I came to watercolor, I just fell in love too. And it's such a beautiful medium, because I think any watercolorist will understand that.
Right. I love that unpredictability and the spontaneity of it. It fits my personality. I love what happens there. And it's never what you really planned or exactly how you wanted to do. And you learn to control it as much as possible, but you also learn to go with the flow and in what happened on the paper. And I love that this mixing water and pigment, it's very exciting for me.
Absolutely. In fact, I wanted to ask you something about your journey as a person who was learning watercolors to someone who's now teaching extensively. And, it'll be lovely to know your experience in, teaching in this medium, and any tips for people who want to teach, watercolor as a career. Any tips on that? Like, how would you approach your workshops, or would you, do you believe in creating courses? How have you approached your teaching career?
Like many things in my life, darling, came just everything, one thing led to another. And Daniel Smith started me teaching many years ago. If I ever dreamed in my wildest dreams that I will be teaching art instead of sports, I would have never believed that. But at the art center where I was volunteering, and when I was later on the board of directors, we needed some local classes, and I offered to teach them just free for the fun, for the local people, for the children, whoever would like to start learning watercolor. And I started teaching there just a day of watercolor. And then one day, at that time, the assistant manager of Daniel Smith called me because they heard my name from the customers. And I was in Whidbey Island, which is north of Seattle. And Daniel Smith is in Seattle, so they were hearing my name. They invited me to do a demo, and then another one, and then they invited me to do a workshop. And that is how I started. I never intended to teach, but teaching, was my profession. Teaching sports or art is the same thing. As a teacher, I do not believe that I can teach people how to paint. I cannot really take the brush in their hand and give them. But as a teacher, my job is to motivate them to want to learn, because there are many ways of learning. It's not only workshop. You can learn by books. Now the internet is full of demos and workshops, and there's everything. So I don't know exactly how to advise people who would like to teach, because teaching was my profession. That is what I graduated, teaching sports. But like I say, teaching for me is teaching. It doesn't matter what you teach.
Yeah.
You just need to, teacher is a very special thing for me. I do believe that as children, teaching children or adults is the same thing. You need to make, you have to have social skills. You need to love people. You need to make a contact with these people, prepare them to be able to receive the knowledge you're giving them. So that is the most important thing as a teacher, because I don't believe that I can just tell them how to paint. The most important thing is to make that bridge between them and me and make them ready to receive. So I have to gain their trust in order to teach. Okay. And I don't know how you really approach that, but organizing starting with little groups from your friends, artists, and getting together, I don't know. And that absolutely educating yourself for teaching methods, because there is, teaching is a science. Yeah. Lovely. But today, so many people teach, and there are so many online workshops, and so it's not easy.
Yes, absolutely. Because not only is it just the teaching space is so full, it's also the fact that there are so many artists out there now in different stages of their life. It's often very difficult to break out of the clutter, especially with the social media out there.
Yes, so, that is exactly what I'm saying, that you have to gain the trust of the people. Yes. You have to, first you have to establish yourself as an artist, to be known for your art. And so the people who enjoy your art, the people who like your style, they will approach you themselves.
Absolutely. For instance, Stella, like you are known for your spontaneous work, full of emotion, and the style in which you paint. I've seen your demos, very very free, and you paint without too many restrictions in your brain. I think you just see something and you put it on paper in very expressive strokes. So that would be lovely, if you could talk a little bit more about how you achieved that, or did it come naturally? Your almost impressionistic style of painting. Did you like really develop that, or it just came to you naturally over time?
Yeah, it's it's a long journey to get there, but I always liked the Impressionists. I always liked that style, that the freedom, and that's what attracts me to watercolor mostly, that it gives you that opportunity, that spontaneity. That is what I was always attracted. That is the art. I always looked at museums, and since I was child, that's what I was looking to find out, because I do believe I like somebody to give me food for thought and then let me visualize it and imagine it. And so this way I participate in the piece of art instead of everything being given to me. And there is nothing that I can add to that. I always was attracted to that style because when at different lights, you see it differently. Depending on your mood, you will see it differently when it's not, because yes, a banana is a banana, how many times I would like to look at a banana. But if that is a purple dancing banana, every time I look at it, I will say, oh, I never thought of that this way. And I don't know, that is what I like. And that is, of course, there are a lot of realistic painters, and I love their style, and I know how much it takes to do that. But I, like everybody else, started with realistic painting and with drawing. That is something that if people believe that I got there so quickly and just like you say, came to me, no. That is, I started with a lot of drawing, a lot of knowledge, figure drawing, the anatomy of the human body, a lot of drawing classes. And so I am free where I am now because of all of these basics that I learned for many years. And I was very fortunate to study with very old school of watercolor. In those teachers, they were really emphasizing the basics. From like, you build a house, you first have a blueprint and start with designing that house, and then start putting the foundations, and then you build the house. And then the tools, you need to know the tools. So there is a lot to learn before you are able really to free yourself and to paint that style. Like the Impressionists, you know, what a long history they have until they were accepted, until they, you know, so it's a lot of work to paint free. It's nothing something that just comes very, very easy, because many people think if you paint so free and you paint so fast, it means that it's so easy. Yes. It looks easy, but I always ask, when people ask me, how long do you paint a painting? I always say, you know, 2-3 hours and 30 years.
Yes, exactly. There is, in fact, a quote on that, which talks about that, you know, when you see a painting, it's not just that painting. It's the many, many hours and years of learning, of practice, of, you know, drawing. Absolutely. And yes, it's not just that painting that you see.
Yes, artists know about that, but the general public, many times they do not understand that. Yes. I even had cases when somebody says, oh, could I have it so it's $100 less, because it looks as though you painted fast.
Yes. You know? Yes, you did this very quickly. Apart from having the foundations in place, you know, learning your tools and understanding color and values, are there any other techniques that one could, you know, adapt or you know, take in to free one's painting style?
Yes, there is for me two very important components. In the first thing is learning to see, because I do believe Most of us, and especially people who do not paint, they look, but they do not see.
Yes.
Because seeing is something beyond looking. When I look outside, or when I look at a subject, I don't see a house, I don't see a tree, I don't see the thing, but I see the forms, I see the shape, and mostly I see the light in the atmosphere. And we come to the next thing, which is incredibly important for me, the knowledge about light. Because the way light changes the subject, it's not the house with the red roof and with, green house, but how does local colors change with changing the light? What happens when it's in shadow? What happens in the morning? What happens in the evening? So for me, learning about light, it's the most important thing to be able to see. Because to use the colors, I mean, we have this amazing colors today. The technology is incredible. We have incredible tools. We have beautiful paper. We have beautiful brushes and paints. But a light is, for me, one of the most important things to learn about light. And that is a whole, I do believe there is a book that I always suggest with people, and it's always on my supply list. It's a very old teacher, American, who was teaching in the beginning of the 19th century, John Carlson's, which is a black and white book, is the cheapest book in the market. And I don't believe anybody is really interested. It's totally disregarded because it doesn't have the colorful pictures. But that man explained light like nobody else.
Oh, okay.
And like Monet says, it's not the tree or the bridge or the house that interests me. Interests me what lays between me and that.
Oh, that's a beautiful line.
This is, for me, this is the best I ever heard about painting. Yeah. Because that atmosphere, this aura around the subject, that is what makes the painting, not the house or the tree or the boat, but the whole
atmosphere,
piece of paper. Yes. And then, of course, design. But design belongs to the foundations. Those are the 7 elements of design, the 7 principles of design. Those are very important things to know. So there is a lot of knowledge behind the painting. Yes, when I start painting, and I paint very fast and very free, but for me is the most important thing how I present it on the paper, how I design that square or a rectangular. That's an important thing.
Okay. So that's actually a lovely thing you said, that it's not the house that I'm painting, it's the things in between, because that encompasses all of this, the light, the forms, the perspective. I think basically talking about. Actually, my next question to you was something on those lines. It was, when you look at a picture or a photograph or a scene, live, when you're painting live or whatever, what are the elements you would look at, which are the most important, which you would really concentrate on and try to leave out the rest when you think about a composition and when you want to paint?
There is so much, and I like to paint plein air. When I sit outside, there is so much, and it's so beautiful. I love nature. That is my love. And when I sit there, I like the tree, I like the mountain, I like the house, I like the creek, I like the fence, I like this, and you have to be very selective. So you have to ask yourself, what attracted me to that scene? So I have to find that what is that thing that I really liked to choose that subject in first place. And when I'm clear why I'm painting the scene, then I'm able to select the few elements which will support my vision for that subject. And for me, it's just like making a movie or writing a piece of music. There is always one main character, you know.
Yeah.
So, and there are few supporting actors, and then everybody else is the extra. So I have to, in my mind, when I start looking at the scene or a subject, that is what I'm thinking. What is my main character? Who are my supporting actors? And what about the extras? Because I do not want to make everything as important on my paper. I want to have something, a place, area that is very important, and few things that will support that, and then everything else supports them all. So it's just like I say, for me, painting is like music. And music is never like that. Music is staccato and piano, and and the same thing is with a movie. So I have to have a piece of restful area in my painting. So those are a lot of considerations. What I do when I'm outside, I don't have time, of course, to do that very much, because outside the light changes or the rain comes, you have to paint quickly. But if I'm in the studio, and especially if I paint from a photograph, I never start the painting without making a little thumb sketch. And thumb sketch is a thumb sketch 1.5 inch by 1 inch. That's why it's named thumb sketch. It's about that small. And put really 3 forms and design where am I going to put them. And then design 3 values. That is, and I do this now with the years. I do this for 1 minute. Then I take a bigger piece of paper and I very quickly, black and white, with a pencil or with a brush, I very quickly sketch it and do a black and white sketch and see where is my light. Then I really exaggerate a little in those values, see where my light is, connect my lights, connect my darks. So that is how my process goes when I'm in the studio. I do the same thing outside, just I do it in my head. I start seeing it, and that is a thing that I always suggest to my students. Close your eyes, then open them and see it black and white. Forget the color, see it black and white.
Yeah.
So that you see your light, you see the mid-tone, and you see the dark. So it's a lot of practice to come to that, to divorce yourself from what you paint, but to see the forms, to see the values, to see and then see the color, because I love color. But before that, I have to design my colors, and design my value is incredibly important. And again, we come to the 7 elements. If you have the knowledge of the line in value and color and shape and size, in texture and direction, those are your tools. The 7 elements is really how you build the painting on your paper. And if you really spend time to understand those elements, then you do not need to think too much about the 7 principles, because you will achieve them if you really use your 7 elements properly on the piece of paper to design your painting, because that is what it is. Those are the building stones, the 7 elements. of design.
Wow. Stella, I think, whoever's going to watch this video, I don't know if you really realize the gems you have just dropped, the amount of amazing information you have just packed into the last 3 minutes. It's, it's outstanding because actually you have just hit the nail on the head. I mean, if one would follow these and practice and practice and practice, anybody can, really achieve their own, style and their own wonderful way of painting,
Yeah.
right? And one thing I gathered from what you said, which is very, very starkly obvious, that we see love in your paintings, right? Whenever I see your work, to me, it's how you see the world around you. Whether it's flowers or it's boats, or it's mountains or the sky. There's just I can see the love you have for what's around you. You know, so I think that is more important than anything else, to actually like your subject, to really get attracted to it and then paint it.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Shika.
That is really there in your
Shika,
work.
I never paint anything that I'm not attracted to.
Yeah.
I'm not painting for titles, or I'm not painting for what people like, or for the trend of today's day. I paint absolutely what is in my heart, and that is, for many years ago, I promised myself that I paint for myself. And that is something that actually I always tell my students, and they laugh about, but that is the only thing I possess. I don't possess anything. I don't possess the things. I don't possess my children or grandchildren or my house. Nothing is really mine. But that painting, that time, that process that I have, this is everything that is absolutely mine. And I guard it very jealously, that I paint whatever attracted me. I never paint for anything that I haven't seen. I don't ever take a photograph from the internet, or I never trace anything. I have to see it in order to really put the emotion in your painting. You have to have seen it. You have to experience that. That is a very important thing for me. And, I'm very old-fashioned. Today, there are tons of stuff that you can trace paintings and whatever and fill it in. I cannot do this. I have to see it. I have to process it in my head, then go into my heart, then digest it, then it has to come through my arms and through my brushes and colors on the paper. So for me, that is a very long process. Sometimes I paint something that I've seen 10 years ago, been sitting there, and you somehow I start painting, and I never start painting a painting. I always start playing. I put a nice piece of music, I read a poem, I start smashing colors, thinking about something to get the muse there, because I want the muse now. I cannot wait. So that is my process of getting into the zone, because I cannot sit in my left brain, which is the critical one, and says, no, this is not right, this is not right. I have to make myself get into the zone. And this you can achieve. This is a skill that I learned having 4 children and having 2-3 hours a day to paint when, they're in school or something. So I learned to get that skill. So I usually open a book, poem, music, anything that will put me out of the world.
Yes.
And that is when I, absolutely, to get into the moment, to forget anything else. And that is when creativity really starts. And then something triggers the moment I start playing something and putting colors, something comes into my mind. Maybe 5 years ago, I saw something that today is the day to paint it, but I still can go back to that moment and have that feeling, that what I felt there when I saw it. And especially outside, that's why I love to paint outside, because outside you really comprehend everything with all your senses, with the smell, with the noises, with your eyes, with all your senses. You are right there into that incredible atmosphere. So yes, what you said is absolutely right. You have to paint something that really you feel with your heart.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with that thing that you said, to get in the moment, you need to play. Because as I don't know about men, but as women, we handle a lot of things. We have children and the home, and there are, and it's always in the mind, it's like my children will be messaging me, I need this, or I need to eat this, or and you have to switch off from that sometimes, because when you're doing something creative, you cannot let other things come in the way. It has to be, a zone. So I often do the same thing. I put on music, I'll pick up an art book and I flip through it, and then I start with the play.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a horrible thing just to put the white paper in front of you. And we are very good and that women, because we say we don't have the time, so there is the paper, it has to become a painting. I never start the painting to become a painting.
It never becomes a painting then.
If it becomes a painting, it becomes, if not, it joins the extended family, and I never throw a painting, even if it doesn't happen a painting, because I take it after a few years even, and at that time I did not know what to do. Maybe now I know. Many of those paintings I take out and they become paintings later. So I never throw my papers away, and I paint on the other side also.
Yes, exactly. So I often do that too. So I don't throw my paintings, but I don't often go back to them. I just paint on the back. And it's lovely because watercolor paper is so expensive. It's lovely to just use up to play on the other side. You don't feel any guilt about the paper.
No, absolutely. No guilt. No, that's just, I do believe that playing is a very important thing. And many people will think, oh, paints are expensive, paper is expensive, but that is where we learn.
That's
Every brush that we put on the paper, we always learn, and we never stop learning. So that is the beauty of art, that I do believe we don't get worse. We always get better. We just have to paint. And I do believe that anybody can paint. It takes a lot of courage.
Your 30 years of play goes into the 30 minutes of a painting.
Yeah,
later in life.
That's right.
That's the value.
And everybody can learn to paint if they really have the passion and the desire to put the work and prepare to put the work there. But it is that you have to paint because you have to paint. That's
Stella, I often tell people who don't paint, who ask me how, I paint every day and, why do I do that? So I often, you're the perfect person to talk about this. I often tell them that it's like sport. Art is like sports because you have to build the muscle memory. You cannot just...
Like everything else.
Yeah, you cannot just start painting one day and then come back a month later and say, oh, I'm an artist.
No, you cannot do that. It's just like anything else in life. But also there is something in, you were talking about, we women, we never have the time like a man artist who will go in his studio at 8 and come out at 5 o'clock, and the woman took care of the food and the children and everything else. So we don't have that pleasure of doing that. So sometimes I don't paint every day. That is sometimes it's impossible to do this. Like right now, I'm helping my son with his 3-year-old daughter and a newborn baby. So I cannot paint. But I never stop seeing. And that is what I say to my students. Even if you don't paint, look around and paint with your eyes. You paint with your brain. Look outside. And the more you look, the more you see. And like we talked about, seeing is everything.
Halfway there, I think.
Yeah,
if you can
it
see
is everywhere.
The painting in your mind, in your heart, you're halfway there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So ask you one more thing. You know, Stella, painting can be a very lonely job. You know, not sad, but you know, you're isolated and you're painting. You know, mostly alone. And I often feel that artists need to be part of communities and meet more and interact more. And which is why I believe the international art organizations are very important, because they kind of bring people together. The exchange of ideas happen. You know, and you do learn tons from each other, and you also don't feel any loneliness, you know, because I think an artist can be very isolated sometimes. What are your thoughts on that? You know, because I know you are part of IWS for California and many other organizations, right?
Yes, that is a very important part. And I do believe that it is very important to paint with fellow artists. I always suggest to everybody, make a little group, get once a week together or as often as possible. It's a very important thing to paint with other people, because you exchange ideas. And for years, we used to paint together a group. And then at lunchtime, we will put the paintings on the wall and everybody says, oh, I like this, but I would have done this and I would have done this. We do not see as good on our paper as we see on somebody else's. And it's incredible exchange to do this and very healthy. And many people are shy to do this. For me, this is not criticizing. This is critique, and criticizing is a huge difference. So to paint with friends and exchange ideas and make each other look at your paintings and say what I really like, what I would have done if it was my painting, is incredible thing. And also participating in a lot of those international events. And especially now with social media, when my Facebook and Instagram is nothing more than an art gallery. And I love this. I love seeing the paintings from all of you guys, from India and Australia and China and Azerbaijan and Pakistan. I mean, this is incredible treasure. It's beautiful. And also through those international events, the friendships that we created for life. I just am enamored with all of you around the world, artists, and it's incredible. That's so participating in those international events has a lot of benefits. Establishing beautiful friendships, learning about other cultures. It's beneficial in many ways to, not to know only your little comfort zone, but see how other people live. I was in India, in Nepal, all over the world, and I just love this world and its people. It's beautiful. So that is a wonderful thing to participate in those organizations.
You know, art, have you ever, maybe thought about art as therapy? Because I know people who are art therapists. And, I wanted to know if you've ever come across, and because obviously they say colors and expressing yourself on paper or with paints is an incredible way of expressing your actual emotions. Sometimes you really cannot express how you're feeling, but you can paint it. And that's something, have you ever explored that with your students?
Absolutely.
Yes?
Any painting, any art is therapeutic thing. I always laugh. I always say, I would not like to have a psychologist look at my painting and evaluates me through that. But I do believe that has a lot to do with that, because we paint in different moods, and I very often look at a painting and I said, oh my gosh, is that me? But that is the mood I was at that moment. And you express that. And when you paint very freely and very honestly, For me, art is honesty. You know, you have to paint what you feel. You have to put your emotion. And our emotion in different times are different. So we do express. Yet there is, for me, it's a little difference between art therapy and art as an art form. Because today I see a lot of paintings that are therapeutic and that I like, but they do not stand the principles of art. Their design, it doesn't hold. And so there is difference between art therapy and art. I remember I brought a painting once to the gallery where I was for many years, and there was this gorgeous, beautiful painting about this lady in really in horrible shape, sitting in the chair in a glass of wine on the table, and really the emotion was incredible. And the title of the painting was Late Again. So obviously somebody was late again. Yes, I mean, everything was beautiful about that painting, in the design and the color and everything. But do I want to have it on my wall?
I see. I see.
That is a different thing, because that is the emotion of somebody who put that emotion. But do I want to have that which evokes a negative emotion in me?
Yes.
In sadness? Would I like to look at that painting? That is a different thing. So expressing your emotion, and I wrote an article about this. I should send it to you, darling. Thinking how to express emotion, because you affect people with your emotions. So I feel kind of responsible about when somebody looks at my painting, what is the emotion that I evoke at the viewer. That is the beauty of art. Everybody can do whatever they like. And then we, the viewers, and everybody choose what to have on their wall and what to look at. But for me, I'm a very positive person. I love the world. I love nature. I love people. So that is what I like to express. And I do believe, especially now with the COVID and the pandemic and the times we are, we need positiveness, we need hope. And so it is so personal, and it's so, it's a lot to be talked about that. But any piece of art is actually art therapy.
Lovely. I mean, you've given me a lot to think about. Stella, I would love to know what else you like to do, apart from painting. Do you have any other interests and hobbies, just to get to know you better?
Oh, darling, I believe that I need 3 more lives, because I always too many ideas, and my kids call me Turbo, that I have a lot of things to do always. I'm always busy. My hobby is jewelries. I do jewelries. I love semi-precious stones.
Oh, okay.
And yes, and I'm very fascinated with Daniel Smith, John Cogley, who is the CEO of the company. He goes and explores all those semi-precious and do the paint. So I'm enamored with that, because I love semi-precious stones. And I put my hands on everything. I've done glass and felt, and I embroider, I sew, I do tons of stuff. I love, especially in your countries. Oh, I so enjoyed the handwork of women. So I love to do a lot of this. Yeah, I do a lot of handwork. And appreciate very much. My house is full of memories. Wherever I treasure, I always bringing something that is handmade. I like ceramics. And the other my love is gardening. So I do believe jewelry and gardening are my main main things. I grow my vegetables, I grow my fruit.
Oh, wow. That's so lovely.
Yes.
Wow. So, I mean, because
Yeah.
all of these, you must be like really a Wonder Woman because, I mean, I end up killing all my plants, the few plants I have because, but I mean, of course, a lot of my time goes with the kids and whatnot. But, you know,
I
I
know.
think working with plants and with the garden, it takes you back to the earth. It connects you.
It does.
You know, it's
It does.
something that I think every individual should do and, spend time on.
I love to put my hands in the dirt. It smells so good. I believe we are such water and earth people. We are connected to that. So I enjoy that very much. And because I spent summer times in Bulgaria where I grew up, I live in the United States, but 14 years ago, we bought a little house in a little village where I spent few months. And there I plant my vegetables, and I have 65 fruit trees that I planted.
Wow.
And
Oh, that's
yes,
so beautiful. Oh, wow.
yeah, and I have all the fruits and nuts and vegetables, so I enjoy that very much.
Stella, you don't know how many things you have shared today which make so much sense. And, I think people would watch this on repeat to extract all the nuggets of information that you've so generously shared. And I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for this conversation. And thank you so much for taking our time.
Thank you very much for the invitation, dear Shika, and I really enjoyed, and I enjoy your painting. I love my Indian friends, and I love India.
Well, I hope you can visit us very soon. This pandemic is, I think, now probably at the tail end, hopefully. And
Yes.
very soon we can resume traveling and meeting each other.
I would love that. I would love to come back. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Stella. Love you.
Love you and love to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.